All right. Episode 15 posted on the story. There's Anthony. Got Anthony to be in the video on Try It today, huh?
Mm-hmm. Well,
good for you.
Good for you.
All right.
You want to get us some koozer boozies? Boozer koozies?
Boozer koozies.
They're not actually koozies, they're coasters. Just before somebody gets angry at me on the internet.
What's the difference?
Koozies. Like a hug.
Oh.
And
I give a coaster's like koozie.
And a coaster's like a flip-flop.
Oh. The more you know.
You're welcome.
This is probably not
You can
great.
have that back. Well, you're going to have to pour it and all that stuff.
All right. So we're cracking
Ooh, turn the ball around.
A pretty nice bottle tonight. My
gosh.
This is the Willet Purple Top. For you whiskey connoisseurs, we're drinking Raindrops on Roses.
Next week, we're going to drink Whiskers on Kittens.
There is a Whiskers on Kittens.
That's funny.
It's the 9-year version of. Yep.
Whiskers on Kittens.
There's a guy there's a guy in the neighborhood that got the Whiskers on Kittens, and I'm gonna crack this open. I'll probably give him some samples, and we'll do a little trade skis.
I like it.
Yeah,
nice. You get a little Ziploc or something.
Yep, that's how you do it.
That would be such a like yeah, you want to trade? And he's like, yeah, come on over. And you just got like a little Ziploc bag. I brought a straw. I didn't know if you wanted it.
This is right. I feel like this is an It's Always Sunny episode.
Yeah.
It's an episode where they eat spaghetti out of bags. The spaghetti day.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Good time.
So for those that don't know, this is a potentially the nicest bottle that I've got on the shelf. We've drank some pretty nice ones.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got some other nice ones, but this is arguably one of the best. So, I propose, at least at first, what do you think about drinking it out of a out of a nosing glass?
Mm-hmm.
What do you call what's the technical term? I'm gonna get scrutinized for this.
We're just gonna.
It's on the tip of my tongue.
It's a catamaran.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, I'm in.
Down.
Yeah. Mine's got lipstick on it. Just kidding. You looked, which is really funny. It's fine. I'm just kidding. You're like,
not many.
How the hell did lipstick get on these?
There's not many girls that you could convince to drink 120 proof bourbon.
Careful what you say. You're gonna get some comments.
There's some. Christian's girlfriend, Peyton, came over for whiskey cigar night.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was the last one, and she was drinking whiskey with the guys.
Nice.
So, all right.
I'm in. Let's do it. Now, let me ask you, Kevin, is there any significance or reason as to why we are drinking such a nice drink here? Is there something maybe to be celebrating?
There is.
Ryan said no.
All right. Marketing guy says we got to keep it a secret. I guess we'll put this back.
Yeah, all right. We'll just pull the Jack Daniels down.
Yeah. You want to jump right into it?
Why not?
So this will release on Thursday, and we'll be posting about it and whatnot a little bit more. I don't even know if we've really hinted on it. We've talked about it a little bit on the podcast, but we just signed the lease for the first Define warehouse. HQ1.
I think you meant to say Define Sports Complex.
That's right.
This is so we signed a place that's more square footage than we're gonna need right now, but for those that don't know, we put a lot of our products in the backs of the stores. We've got a ton back and behind Quail.
Yep.
Quail is getting more and more packed. We've got can't really fit much in Norman.
No.
When we opened up Yukon, we've been throwing some stuff out there. We couldn't fit anywhere else.
Yeah.
So it's been in the back there. If you keep up with Define Nutrition, we have leased some storage units that are temperature controlled. We got up to the point over the summer that we were at 3 of them. And it was creeping up to, I think, like somewhere between like $600 and $800 in rent on those storage units. Plus, the temperature controlled is not as
little lax on the temperature controlled.
Fairly wide range of what temperature they can keep that within. Where with supplements, you typically the closer range, like the closer you can get it to like how much a house is temperature controlled, or like an actual retail store is controlled, the better.
Makes sense.
I think as long as you keep it between like below 75 degrees, you're like should be very safe.
Yeah.
You can take it up to 80 and like be okay with most things. 85 definitely starts to get iffy, and then and the storage units were not keeping it within that range.
The range of the storage units were either what it was outside or what it wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's quite the range.
Maybe just a few degrees of difference of what outside was. So
whichever way.
Yeah, but so we were, and I think we were going to have to, depending on how much we get in and what we have to reorder, because we're going to be doing some new Define products this year, reordering more and more, and our pace of how many storage units we were having to rent was increasing pretty rapidly. So we kind of had in the back of our mind, like, hey, eventually, a small warehouse is going to be, just going to be a must. And over the summer, we had some products that, because they were exposed to a little bit too much heat, the flavor in them turned a little faster. So if products, even if you keep them at 70 degrees perfectly for 2 years. So when you make a protein powder and it has about a 2-year shelf life. When you first try it, that flavor is going to be pretty powerful. 2 years, right before it expires, that flavor is typically going to have like mellowed out quite a bit. Like it loses a lot of that flavor, but elements like heat and humidity are going to speed up that process. So we had some proteins that the flavor on it turned at about a year. So
when you say turned, it's just the flavor's just not as intense. It doesn't like change to a bad flavor or like a spoiled flavor or anything. It just isn't as intense, right?
For the most part, I think we had some that kind of
just
full disclosure kind of started to taste a little chemically.
Don't like that.
Yeah. And the reason I'm talking about it is, it was one of those that we started to notice a couple and we weren't really sure what was going on.
Yeah.
And then when we started to notice I think maybe like all of them had gotten this way or most of them, we pulled all of them.
Pulled the plug.
Luckily, this was at a point where we already had a reorder on the way. Yep. We were running out of current inventory. Like the inventory on these was getting lower. So luckily we weren't having to damage out like a ton of them. Yeah. But that happening, having to damage, it was still thousands of dollars in inventory.
Sure.
Like it could have been a lot worse, but it was still quite a bit. Showed that we're kind of at risk being in these storage units. We're maxing them out. We kind of got to the bottom of like why this happened. We worked with some of our guys in the industry to learn about this a little bit more and just make sure that what we're seeing is what's actually happening. And at that point we decided, hey, a warehouse, we might not fill up a full warehouse, but we, I think it's going to be, it's a better, we'd rather be paying a little extra in rent right now than damaging out.
Right. Like I'd rather be giving the money towards something that's like cool and beneficial for the long run, as opposed to just like throwing it away and like, and we honestly, it's funny how this goes because we have had a numerous amount of instances of this, and I didn't actually really even think about it until right now, at least in this perspective, of how lucky we were that this also happened right when we switched tubs, because it made it literally so easy to tell which ones needed to get pulled and which ones didn't. Like we didn't have to look at like lot numbers or manufacturing numbers or anything. Like you could just look at the tub and just like know whether or not it needed to be pulled off the shelf, which is like super lucky, because like if that were to happen the next go round as opposed to this go round, we would have been like, okay, crap, what number is that one? Like we need to start looking at it's not just obvious in half a second.
Right. We'd be having to like pull different expirations.
Right. So it's super like kind of, if it's going to happen at any time, at the time when you're switching tubs anyway, it's kind of the best time to do it.
Yeah, definitely beneficial to like, there was definitely kind of like a positive note to that. It like made it a little bit easier.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Made it easier for sure.
Because we had like, the last thing you want to do is like have a few of those slip through.
Right. And then change someone's entire thought of the product or the company.
Exactly. Yeah, it got to the point where it was...
It's a Glencairn, by the
way. That's what it is. Glencairn glass. But yeah, it got to the point where it was like, it was, I mean, usually I'm not super picky on flavors and I can kind of drink whatever, but I appreciate a good flavor, but this was like, I don't know if I could.
Right.
Like I couldn't even get through the
and
tub.
If you couldn't, then like,
and so we didn't want it to be, something. Yeah, we definitely didn't want that to be someone's first experience. But even if you have been taking it for a while, people could start to say, "Oh, this, how many people would, if you had 100 people buying, this one flavor of protein, and all of them end up with one bad tub because you don't realize it, and they all for a month and they all restock on it. How many of those people are going to take that chance
not
again?
Come back to it.
Right, exactly.
Probably a decent amount.
Yeah. And one cool thing though with that, so just full disclosure, that was our Define isolate tubs. But that was ones that we actually made some super minor tweaks to the tubs. We made some super minor tweaks to the flavor. And I think that ended up being even better than it was the first time. That was a phenomenal product. It was moving very, very well for us in the first place. But I think it was, I think we had to bite the bullet on it, but I think that will bode well for us in the long run.
Yeah, I think so too. Like it's, sometimes that happens, I feel like just in business in general or like whatever, where it's like, we're going to hit bumps in the road. It's going to happen no matter what. Like we aren't going to avoid them. Like we're going to avoid some of them and we can prepare for some of them. But in the long run, we're going to run into things. We're going to come into unforeseen things. And it's like, be as prepared as possible and like hope that they come at good times. Like I think that's kind of one of the biggest things is like we've been lucky, at least recently. Can't say this about all the bumps on the roads that we've hit, but it's like at least the ones that we've hit recently, we've been in a position to like be okay with making a decision. And it's like that's a huge like peace of mind, because it's like, don't get me wrong, like there's no bright side to something like that happening. But it's like if it can happen at a time where we can, we can
handle it.
Right. It wasn't 3 months into a new order. Granted, we would have asked different questions at that point, but it's like it was at the end of it. We'd gotten through quite a bit of it, and it was solid stuff. And then when it got to that point where it just like, it had been exposed out where it just wasn't working anymore. It was at a time where it was like, man, like this is obviously a bummer, but like on the scale of where this could have been, it could have been a lot worse. And it's like a lot of things actually fell in our favor, whether it was like the new tubs to be able to tell, like, so none of them slipped through the cracks. We knew it wasn't going to slide through. Like it's very easy for us to like quality control it. And, like we said, like it kind of pushes us towards the route of having the warehouse where it's like, this is now a problem that we shouldn't have to face in the future.
It came at a time where, it could have happened to a lot more inventory. We could have had a lot more inventory going bad. We were dwindling down on it. It could have came at a time we were a lot tighter on cash flow.
Yeah, we couldn't afford a warehouse.
Then what do you do? Well, yeah, that's true. But like damaging out even like, you damage all those out. It's like, okay, well now you got to reorder way before. Like we already had a reorder on the way. So it was already money that we were planning like that had been spent.
Right.
So it could have came at a time where you're having to place an order way ahead of where you think you're going to, and it's just, it could have definitely been a lot worse. It still wasn't fun. Like it's still like, it's still a noticeable hit on our end.
Sure.
but yeah, no, it's I think there's a lot of reasons that it worked out the way that it did. It was the final thing that pushed us to get a warehouse. And I think we're getting like, since we've kind of like made that statement of, hey, we talked at meeting. This was probably, I think, in December, and told the whole staff, hey, this isn't public information yet, but we've decided we're going to do a warehouse before the summer. We need it before it gets warm again. And we'll be, we don't really need stuff through we don't really need a warehouse through the winter,
right?
Because it's cold months.
Right.
We don't have any orders coming in,
right?
We can even dwindle it down to two storage units. Yeah. So we don't want to be paying for something like if we can make what we have due for the next 6 months.
Right.
So, but we started looking.
Right.
My mom actually helped out. She works in the supply chain, warehousing and whatnot. So she even helped us with some other options that were like, checking out warehouses, but also looking at some alternative options that could be a nice like half step or a little less expensive, but ultimately decided that it was a warehouse that was going to be the best option for a number of reasons. And it worked out really well. It apparently is pretty tough to find a warehouse that is temperature controlled. Most warehouses, come to find out, are not at all. So,
love that.
Yeah, so it's
great for storing car parts, not for protein.
Exactly, because that's what most warehouses are for, is stuff like that. So we that definitely limited our search like quite a bit right off the bat. And there was a few that we were kind of looking at, and narrowed it down to a couple of really good options, and then ended up landing on one that's 2,500 square feet. It is quite a bit more than we need.
Sure.
But it is right behind the Yukon retail store. It's owned by the same guy. And a big aspect to that is that we'll always have someone on staff at the store. So if things need to happen. So we're already planning, like I think Alyssa's planning on putting a lot of her hours out there. We'll be doing, it won't be just storage for Define Nutrition. It'll become where Quail right now is kind of our distribution center for the other two stores, where we have a lot of things ordered in. And today being Monday, if you checked out my story today, you saw what it looks like to do actual distribution for us on a weekly basis. My truck, I legitimately filled up the entire bed of my truck, the entire back seat of my cab, and I had to put 2 boxes into the passenger seat, where usually I put my backpack and like lunchbox, but I had to stack those on top of other boxes for Yukon. So
was that just what was that, the Yukon transfer or the Norman transfer?
That's both. So Norman filled up the entire bed. Yukon filled up essentially my entire cab. I couldn't see out the back. So when I delivered the Norman transfer, and I pulled everything out of my cab and put it in the bed so I could see out my back windshield. So
that's good.
It helps for, driving on the highway. And the Yukon one also filled up the entire bed. So just to give you a reference point.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, again, it's like, it's better, just imagining worst case scenarios, but imagine like, you just had something where, you had to store things that kind of ended up eventually ruining some of the product that you had. And it's like, imagine being in a situation where it's like, there is no option for a warehouse by summer.
Yeah.
And it's like, you just got to put that same thing back into the place that it messed other stuff up, It's like we're luckily in a position that doesn't have to be the option for us right now.
Yeah. So this is a big step. Obviously, I think most people, and at least our staff, recognizes that it's a big step. I think some people probably hear this and they're like, you got a warehouse, like, congratulations, like just a warehouse. But it's exciting because it's kind of our, can become a little bit of our base of operations.
Right.
It's bigger than any store. It's got an office space. We got our own bathroom. And where it's, not long term where we want to be. It's, we've got really big goals and big dreams for an actual headquarters. It is still legitimately the first headquarters.
Right.
So
I mean, yeah, if you would have told, if we would have been talking about this, or when we talked about this 3 years ago, 4 years ago, or whatever, it's like that was just like, oh man, one day, and it's like, oh, that day's right around the corner. Like,
yeah, it's it still doesn't seem real, but I could ramble on about this forever. So let's do a little toast
to HQ1,
to HQ1
in Alyssa's private bathroom.
I've heard
a lot of apricot.
Yeah. I heard kind of cinnamony. That's what I got.
Got a lot of apricot.
I'm sure there's some real bourbon connoisseurs that could tell you all the exact notes. We like to give you ours.
Yeah. You ever had like dried apricots?
Yeah. No, that's when you said that, I thought dried apricots as opposed. You say apricots or apricots?
I say apricots.
That's wrong.
Ryan, we're going to need a judge here.
You're asking the wrong person when it comes to grammar.
Not much of a stone fruit guy, huh?
Not much of a fruit guy. I learned
apricot sounds weird to me, but I can't tell you one way or the other.
Apricots are for apes.
And apricots are for operas. So, boom, roasted. Moving on.
For those at home, it's apricot. If you're curious, tastes like apricots.
Did we, Ryan? Did we have an official winner on the insult?
Oh yeah.
From the last podcast.
I honestly completely forgot about that. I'll have to go back and see who I voted on as the highest. So
go for it. Do
Looks
that.
like you'll have to listen a little bit longer to find out the winner.
Tune in next time.
We already told them next time. This is the next time.
That's right.
You got to keep dragging them on. Keep them listening.
That's right.
Very end.
It was like Dragon Ball Z, where it was like 9 episodes of build up to every fight.
Yeah.
It's like, next time on Dragon Ball Z, just fight. We got some good ones though. We got some funny comments on there for sure that I appreciated. Laurel did not like this game. Laurel was not a fan. Not one bit.
I think Laurel was voted the lowest.
The lowest?
Yeah. Her I'm a throw up was a 0.4.
Yeah, she and she was not even referencing that she was going to throw up to us. She's going to throw up reading all of these comments.
I was really funny. I had some people like messaging me. They're like, "Hey, I wanted to comment this, but I didn't want to I didn't want to go too far." I'm like, "Dude, don't hold back.
Go for it."
I'm like, "This one's not even that mean."
Yeah. What are you talking about? The funniest part was that you and I obviously didn't care, but we had a couple of comments that people we know reported the comments.
There was one, I can't remember what it was, but it was from someone that I don't think is super well known by everyone at the store. It's not someone we're really close with, but it was a solid one.
Yeah.
It's a really good insult.
Yeah, it was like
and Anthony reported him.
Yeah. Anthony's like, "Yeah, say that."
Funny you mentioned, because I'm pretty sure that was the winner.
That is a funny one.
Let me find it again. I just passed it. Y'all's podcast doing so bad, you got to covertly beg for Instagram comments.
I feel like it has to win because I think Ryan and Anthony reported it.
I didn't report it.
Oh, okay. You checked with us though.
I had Anthony text me and he's like, "Hey, I just reported that comment." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And so he told me, and I went and looked at it, and I'm like, he's like, "I think it's a fake. Don't see any like followers or anything like that." And so I went and looked at it and I voted on it, and then I had to ask y'all. I'm like, "Wait, this looks somewhat legit, but it could be fake." So I checked with y'all to see if it was fake or not. And Tom was like, "Oh no, I know the guy." And so I went back and revoted on it with more knowledge of okay, this is actual customer, not a fake comment Anthony was thinking.
It's so funny that through all of this, we still had people who were like, "No, don't say that.
Too far.
Not too far."
We told him not to hold back.
That's right.
I didn't read any that I felt like crossed the line.
No
one commented on my ears, so we're good.
I didn't cry more than I usually do.
I feel like, we've left even on our regular ones where we're not where we're not giving permission to just roast us, even when we get roasted from people that are just trying to genuinely be mean.
Yeah,
just like leave those.
Those I think are funny too.
Exactly, dude.
I don't care.
But yeah, that was my favorite.
That was my favorite too.
I would agree that was probably the best.
That was
winner, but there was supposed to be a winner between you and I, right?
I think so, on who got more mean comments directed towards them.
I think it was pretty 50-50 because if anyone commented, it was typically toward both of y'all.
Yeah, or one comment.
Or they did
each.
one for each. So
Yeah.
I'd say it's a...
Got a tie?
It was a draw.
All right. Well, what were the prizes? I think we have to guess.
Tune in next time.
Oh, gosh. People are going to be like, the podcast got weird. Around episode 15, things started getting a little sketchy.
We ran out of material.
Yeah, well, you know, we are... I've lowered my caffeine intake, which has definitely been an interesting thing. I've just been trying to be not so. I won't name names, but somebody come in the other day who's a friend of the store, and they were talking about like caffeine that they'd had. They had, drinking energy drinks throughout the day, and then they pre-workout in the evening. And I just want you to guess what they're. And then he was like, yeah, and then I realized that at this point in the day, I was at X amount of caffeine. I want you to guess what that amount is, and the person I'm talking about is not Ryan. So,
I think I know who. I think I heard this story. So,
do you know what the number was?
I think so.
Well, let's hear it.
Was it 1,200 milligrams?
1,400.
1,400
milligrams of caffeine. Oof.
That's a lot.
Yeah. They've recently switched over to stem-free pre-workout, but like we were like, that's a lot.
Yeah.
I feel like I get a lot, and because I do decently get a lot, but like a day for me, like a big day for me is like 600. And if it's a busy day, maybe 800, but
yeah,
I try not to go there. Like 600 is typically my like most in a day.
Yeah.
That's where I think we were, I was probably in the same boat. I think you and I were in the same boat in the sense that like things were just hectic.
Yeah.
UConn's been crazy. I know we've talked about that a lot, but the UConn store is taking off like crazy. So, I've been out there for the past few weekends helping cover.
Yep.
You're going to be working a lot of weekends. Mine got to, and I just had a lot of stuff come up in the midst of all that. So I'm Monday through Friday working back end and working a lot of late nights, and then open to close a lot of Saturdays and Sundays over the last few weeks, every Saturday and Sunday, and a lot of times till close. So, my caffeine tolerance, I was doing probably 400 to 600, where I'm usually a 100 to 200 a day.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to float. I'm at 150 right now. It's like, okay, you know what? If I can float at 150, like we're doing pretty good. Yeah. That's definitely a decrease for me, and it's like I'd like to get to a point where it was none. I think that would be cool if I could, like, if caffeine was something I did not every day, but like every once in a while.
I've flirted with that line a little bit, and like I've done some days like where my caffeine tolerance is like really getting low, and I don't need much. It's like 100 milligrams, and I am golden, and it lasts me all day. Yeah. And I'll even try, like, I'll have some days in the midst there where it's like I'm not doing any at all. I've learned that personally, I like to have, like, I do fine if I do 100 to 200, and it's never habitually timed, where it's first thing in the morning, or at this time in the afternoon. It's I use it when I need it, and if I'm feeling fine, I go without it. Like I was able to do that this morning. I think you and I are both feeling back. We I had coffee and I was ready to drink whenever I wanted, but cold coffee, left it in my lunchbox, felt fine until about 1 o'clock. I started kind of dragging. I was like, time for a little coffee.
Right.
Yep.
Well, and it's tough too, because like I think this is something that it's a phase that everybody that works at the company goes through, because it is tough. It's kind of a difficult thing. It's an underestimated thing, but it's like you always have to be on. You can't really be dragging. Like when somebody comes in or the store's busy, like you want to be able to go up and just give the customers what they deserve, like energy wise, like legitimately. And so, much less than, there's obviously a lot of jobs out there that require a lot more alertness than what we require, but it's still one of those things where it's a combination of requirement of alertness plus ease of access to caffeine is a really interesting combo, man. Like it becomes something where it's like every single person that I know of, at least, I guess I haven't talked to everybody about it, but it's like they've all like creeped up to a point where they're like, oh, this is a little bit more than I need, and then like work their way back down and then work their way back up and then back down, and it's kind of like you're constantly doing that. But it's like it's a tough thing, man, because anybody who works at the store or has even been in the store can probably imagine like how many times this weekend did we have 5 or 6 people in the store that all needed help, I can't be coming up just dragging.
That's the thing, is you can be the most skilled person within customer service and have the most knowledge about supplements out of anybody on the team. But if you're tired, if you're dragging, struggling to keep your eyes open, like you're not going to be able to access those memories, and you're not going to be able to like put that in a way where these customers can understand. I had that with funny enough, I think the person that was doing 1,400 milligrams of caffeine,
he'll be listening to.
Yeah.
What's up, buddy? I love you. You're my favorite.
Was
glad we got that number down.
Yeah. I walked into the store. I came from Quail Springs. I was going out to Yukon and I was delivering some stuff, and I left Quail Springs, and it had been a while since I'd had like my morning coffee or whatever. And I was like starting to kind of drag, and like that drive, being in the car for 20-25 minutes, I just kind of started to doze off a little bit. And I was like, I'm going to need some caffeine when I get there.
Yeah.
And I walk in and there's someone that needs help, and they start asking questions, and I'm like, like, and I legitimately said, I was like, hey, I'm sorry. Like, I'm going to need another dose of caffeine. I'm starting to drag this afternoon.
Right.
Yeah, luckily it was a person that we knew, and they saw me coming in and like bringing stuff in and whatnot. So, understandable situation. But yeah, if you don't have it on, like if you're dragging, your customer service legitimately will start to suffer.
Yeah, for sure, man. And it's like you get to that point where you're working 40 hours or whatever, and you're in the store and you're taking customers, especially if you're at a busy store or a store where people need lots of help, and man, like it takes a lot out of you. And so having that, like every time I come up from the front, like I got a smile on my face and I'm ready to say, hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
Sometimes that requires that little caffeine boost.
Yeah. Yeah. To be in a chipper mood too.
Yeah. It's a huge thing mood wise for sure. Yeah. But then you get addicted, and then it's just about, I just want a cold can with fizzy drinks in it.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is it's the ease of access working at Triad or any supplement store is just, it's a little bit too easy.
Oh yeah.
Is you've got energy drinks, especially now that energy drinks are huge in the supplement industry. Fridge full of energy drinks, pre-workouts
that
you just
are all
have
delicious.
Yeah,
too.
and you've got just caffeine at your fingertips at all times. You don't have to go anywhere, stop anywhere. It's not like you have to fight through it because you don't have access to it. It is right there.
Yeah, like too much.
There have been some busy days, especially, and I'm sure when you're working a store alone and you don't have someone to kind of alternate, is sometimes you get so busy that you don't even have time to like crack an energy drink.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, I'm dragging and I just have not had a second without a customer in the store.
Yeah, we've been there, man.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for what it looks like going forward, having the warehouse of just, I'm excited to see how that grows, because it's a whole nother aspect, and I think it's a whole nother challenge. Like, it's not to say that we haven't had a warehouse or a distribution center before, because we definitely have, but it's really interesting to have it under its own roof where it can kind of be its own entity for a little bit. And I think that that's a really cool thing, because obviously, we're going to be holding some overstock for Triad, and we're going to have obviously the Define stuff there. It's a cool thing to think about, of just like a place to go. It's another, and like you said, it can kind of be a base of operations, and a base of operations is really cool. And I think, we all have the same we all think the same thing whenever it comes to like a warehouse. Is anybody who doesn't know, specifically First Swarm has probably the coolest warehouse of anybody anywhere.
Yeah.
Like it's as cool as it gets, right?
It's the pinnacle. Like it's known in the industry of being the brand that has the cool warehouse.
Right. And so I think, we have aspirations to have our own kind of version of that, the triad/defined version of that, which would look different, but we'd be more tailored to our group of people, where we would really like it, I think we've got it like written on the goals board. We've got like different things, and the one that always cracks me up is Kaylin's front squat rack. So Kaylin, we'll get you your front squat rack.
We've got some fun, not just a squat rack specifically for front squats.
Yeah, right.
We've got
it'll just be an arrow on the floor that says face this way.
There's some, our goals board is fun, man. There's some small ones of like hire another part-time employee, move this promote this person over to this position. There's big ones like, define warehouse. That one's been up there for a while.
Sure.
And then there's funny ones there's a handful of funny ones with the warehouse, like a define warehouse half pipe.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm down for.
Kevin's in. A full size one or one for your tech decks?
Full size.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah,
nice.
But this is why Ryan called this the defined sports complex.
That's right.
Is because we have 2,500 square feet of space with like 20-foot ceilings, and we probably don't even need half of that.
Yeah.
So it's like, obviously, we plan to grow into it, and there's a number of reasons. It's like there's very limited on like getting any spaces that would be smaller than that.
Right.
It's where. This is a big reason that we went with the spot that's 2,500 square feet, was because it's right behind UConn, where we could have gone with one that was like, I think it was like 750, and it's like, that'd be enough. We'd probably outgrow it within a year or two, like pretty quickly, but we'd also have to potentially hire on a whole nother person just to make sure that we could like have enough people to not for the warehouse, but hire enough people so that we know we could have someone at the warehouse, because it'll be accepting deliveries on a pretty much daily basis if it becomes the Triad distribution center, which is the plan.
Right.
So with having it in UConn, we kind of kill two birds with one stone, where we pay a little bit more, but we save on payroll, which payroll, if you take our payroll compared to our rent on our profit and loss statement, our payroll is probably 3 to 4 times higher than our total rent.
Much bigger deal.
So keep payroll down before you can keep rent down. So, but with all this extra space, it is hilarious that all the ideas that everybody's come up with. Like I think it was Alyssa and Ryan that got on this tangent first, but they were both, because it's hockey season, so they're both. I think the first go-to was, we're gonna buy a hockey net.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm super down for that.
Yeah, I got some sticks at home.
Yeah, I already have my stick brought out.
Go.
Fresh tape.
No, not fresh tape.
Dang.
Might get some fresh tape.
I still have I have a hockey goalie mask still.
Heck yeah.
I saw a set of pads.
I don't know if we have the pads anymore. So Kevin and I, at a loft that we lived in, gosh, we were buttholes. Just college kids. We were, just college kids. We had moved into, there was, 5 of us in a 4-bedroom loft. And so this loft was essentially brand new. One other group of people had lived there, and it was our fraternity brothers. So like they lived there, and then they moved out and we moved in. And I hesitate to even say this on the podcast, but it was like, this was essentially a 1-year-old loft, like a brand new loft with very nice hardwood floors, that we decided to, it was a big loft, a very big living room. We decided to set up a hockey net and just slap shots right on the hardwood. And we ended up finding hockey goalie pads at Goodwill. And I had like it's an umpire helmet, which is like really funny. And yeah, we played a year's worth of hockey on that floor. We started out with like, we taped down a cardboard box and you'd only like slap shot off the cardboard box. That lasted like 3 days. And then it was just, we had full on just slap shot regatta down there.
That was set up pretty nicely too, where it was like the hallway led right into the living room. So like it was like wide open in like the living room kitchen kind of area that was, or was in between the kitchen and the living room was like a nice open space. So it fit the goal perfectly. And that lined up to go right down the hall.
Yeah.
So you'd be like in like by the bedroom, slap shotting all the way across.
Right. Well, the thing was, is that living room was so big too. Like it was hilariously big. At one point we had, I think it was, let me count. 1, 2, I think we had 4 couches and a recliner that were all just like in a semicircle.
Like, we had couches on either side of the goal to like hold the goal in place. And you could like hang out.
No, we had more couches than that. Then we had 6 couches in that living room.
We had like 3 living room sets of furniture.
Yeah. But honestly, like it made sense. Like it was a big enough living room that it made sense. It was massive. It was like
4 bedrooms in this place.
It's hilariously massive. It's like 1,000 square foot living room. For whatever reason, that's the way they decided to build this thing. I think because they designed it for like, somebody with money is going to live here, and they're going to put this corner of the living room will be like a dining room table. Then they've got like a counter, and then over here might be more of the living room. And we were like, nope, 5 dumbass college kids playing fucking slapshot, like right on the hardwood.
Our first sets of couches go here. Second sets of couches go here.
Yeah.
Hockey goalie.
Yeah, this is all coming together perfectly. They got their money, so.
Those are fun. Those were fun days, man. It was a group of guys that like all like to like. It was, I remember Rhodes playing a lot, Marshall playing a lot.
Yeah, because it was you, me, Marshall, Rhodes, and Beans.
Mm-hmm. Beans. Yeah, good old beans.
Old garbanzo beans.
Yeah, no, those were fun days, man.
Think he's watching? Think he watches the podcast?
No,
probably not.
No. That'd be cool if he did. There's been some people that have been surprised listen.
Yeah,
so,
for sure. Shout out Beans.
Shout out Beans if you're listening.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we're gonna kind of recreate this because we got a little space and it's like so.
Right.
Listen, Ryan brought up like we're gonna put a hockey goal in there. We've got plenty of room for that, and then that just got out of control so
that
fast.
Opened Pandora's box.
Yeah, basketball hoop.
Nice.
Putting a squat rack in there.
Love
that. Will's talking about bringing the half pipe in.
Love that.
Ping pong table.
Ping pong table.
Ping pong table would be.
Yeah, that would.
I think Preston has one.
A ping pong table would be pretty dope, though. That's like a good amount. That's like a good like warehouse thing.
Yeah, if we've got a hockey goal, probably want to do a soccer goal as well.
I think so. Yeah.
Hockey goal one side, soccer goal the other side.
I'll bring my lacrosse stick up there. The hockey goal works well for that.
Yeah. So it's.
I know I have a saved search on Facebook for a free pool table. So if a free pool table pops up, I'm going to get it. So
those things are only like a couple thousand pounds.
Yeah.
We got it.
That's what. Yeah, that's what he's thinking. It'll be someone that's just like giving it away. It's like, hey, you can take it, but you have to come get it yourself, kind of situation. And that's where we just say, anybody not working, we've got a project.
That's right.
Yep.
It's a required project.
Yeah. It'll be worth it. I think everybody involved would think it's worth it.
We're real hopeful on this free pool table.
Oh, they pop up.
Do they?
Yeah. I don't want to travel to Dallas right now, or I'd go get the one that's on there right now.
Right. Makes sense.
But so
how far are you willing to travel for one?
Let's go like Claremore, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Maybe nice. Tulsa.
Remember,
we'll put like a mile in Tulsa.
We got to get like half the triad team to wherever we're going to.
Mm-hmm.
We just pile up in the truck. Make it.
We got a trailer. We just strap it.
We'll just rent one for the day.
Just strap it on the top of Ryan's car.
Perfect.
My car would not make it back.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, so Define products, they don't need a ton of space, but we're already out of room. So,
so we're looking for a new warehouse. We're thinking 5,000 square feet for this one because we're the full turfed in indoor soccer field.
Yeah,
we'll need the extra room. This is delicious, by the way.
I really like this. To be honest, I think I like it neat better.
Oh, really? I like it. I think I like it on the rocks better.
I think it was very smooth. Like it's a 126, 123, 123.4,
nice.
And very smooth, neat for being that high proof, and only 6 years old.
All I'm saying is, since this is going to be a sports complex, Ryan, I think you'd be in on this. I think it'd be really cool to have, like, if we set up some lanes in some areas to do like a full triad combine, like a mark off a 40, do like, a vertical test.
I think it was either Preston or I think it was Preston at the last meeting mentioned a company outing being essentially just a combine of everyone has to go through their rounds and figure out who's the fittest on staff
I'm
or
so
most
down
athletic.
for a combine.
I am.
Yeah.
Hey,
bench press, like, we go through the whole NFL combine. I'm in.
I'm gonna brag for a second, but I was at the last triad workout. Out of everybody that showed up, including the staff and the gym staff, I was the fastest.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I have complimented your speed on the podcast before.
You have.
I have taken a mental note on that time so I can cut it.
It was what are those things called? The self-propelled treadmills?
It's the one that's like shaped like a U.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But do you remember the speed?
We were both sub 20. I know that. I don't think neither one of us broke 20, but
No.
you had me by 0.3 miles.
I think, you got 19.2 and I got 19.5.
Something like that.
I did one more. I did one final stride and really just put all my weight into it, but I was not going to be able to take a second step. Yeah, exactly.
How yeah.
100%. I did that. Everybody heard me in the gym.
Everyone was like,
yep. And but I was not going to be able to take a second step after that. So I caught
blew
myself.
a hammy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So total weight, like totally like center of gravity totally thrown off. But I got that thing up to 20 miles an hour, like 20.0, but I didn't take another step, so they didn't count it. So
dang.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow. So sounds like you didn't get there. So
next time.
That's what I heard.
So
like I said, neither one of us broke 20.
And I didn't compete because I wasn't there, so we don't know.
I mean,
next time
we can make a trip real quick.
Yeah. All right, that's it for the podcast.
It just cuts to us like sprinting on one of those rogue runners or whatever they are.
I'm pretty sure I still have the video of him running, so I'll just throw that over the top.
There we go.
Did you get a video of me?
I think so. If I still have it.
Nice. Okay.
Can you send that to me?
I take that back. I think I just got pictures and they were all relatively out of focus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'll happen.
That's all right.
But yeah, I think like a little nice like combine area would be pretty cool. We could set up a bench press, a 40, the jump, the vertical.
Our staff is a pretty
3-cone.
We think we've got a pretty athletic staff right now. We're getting into more active. We do a company event once a month. Just company paid for. We go to dinner or hang out, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We go Top Golf or something. But we're getting more active, and I think people are into it. So, like we talked, I think with the warehouse was one that kind of spurred it of like, hey, if we're gonna do this, let's just do a pizza party and go out to the warehouse and play some hockey or something.
Yeah.
But our next one we're doing trampoline park. And I think we're all going to be playing some dodgeball.
Yeah.
I did tell Will I will refuse to play hockey with him.
Yeah. Will's tough. He tends to body up a little bit. And if you're not expecting it, he'll come at you.
Bull in a China shop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's a rugby player, so.
Yeah, he gets a little
yeah,
rambunctious.
Do we want to do our routine make fun of Will on the podcast?
Oh, he's the biggest fan. If you get Will going, if you get Will laughing, it's so funny because he just he turns beet red and he just oh man, Thomas, you kill me.
That's good. You had him about not being able to breathe over the weekend. I was dying because I was laughing at Will laughing.
He's the funniest part.
Yeah, exactly.
I just have to tell a story funny enough to get Will going, and then it's hilarious just listening to Will going. I'm excited. One of the cool things is, and something we haven't necessarily talked about, but we are officially kicking you out of the Yukon store on the weekends, and we are moving around a little bit of hours, and we are getting a actual overlap on the weekends. And so one of the cool aspects of this will be the first time where regularly, officially, I will get to work with both Will and Kaylin on a weekly basis. And so it's a pretty cool deal. Until you've stepped into kind of helping us on the weekends, we've been in a situation where it's just been one person at a time. And so it's going to be really cool to actually get to be with them and spend and not just spend an hour here, an hour there with Will, but they get to spend a whole day with him, get to spend a whole day with Kaylin. Like, I think that's a really cool part. Once we I remember doing that in Norman.
Yeah.
Once you kind of step over that threshold, I think that's when, ironically enough, I think that's when the store really starts to hit its stride, because the team can become much more of a team. You get so used to just working by yourself or having, one other person there for a little bit. And then it's like, you get to the point where it's like, hey, most days or every day, or at least on the weekends, we've got two people here pretty much the whole day.
And it's kind of you didn't really realize that. I know, because at Quail, that was the only location. So it was anybody that was even halfway involved with the company was, you'd come up and stop by. And a lot of days, I think I just got used to it just being me grinding away and getting after it. But in Norman, I think we realized a lot with it being you and Preston of it was you two running the store. I was helping out with a shift or two a week, but it was you guys were the ones that were holding the fort down. We're running everything in that store. But you barely ever saw each other.
Yeah. You see each other at shift change every day. So you see each other every day, right? But it's like you
never actually work together.
No, it's like you maybe spend most of the time we're pretty good about either of us, most time we show up a little bit early just in case it is a little bit busy. We kind of had that way anyway. And the other person kind of stays a little bit late, usually depending upon what they've got going on. And so it's usually get an hour or so of kind of interacting. But, translating from an hour or so to 7 hours together is a big change.
Yeah. It's very different from Quail Springs, where it's still kind of right now the base of operations. And our distribution center really is and Alyssa's there and Ryan's there pretty regularly, so it's not a regular. There'll be multiple times a week there will be 5-6 people up there all working, and it's never less than 2.
Right.
So very, very different. But man, that's a big part of pulling the distribution out of or into the warehouse, is to be able to pull it out of Quail Springs as well, because the amount of orders that store is getting is just unreal. So it's
multiple pallets a week.
The employees there were brought on and trained to be able to be the best at customer service and actually helping people and working with people in their nutrition, where they're 50% doing that, but 50% a warehouse worker. And it's like, man, you guys are a whole lot more skilled than having to do this.
Sure.
If we can pull that and put it in a warehouse and kind of handle that separately, I think Alyssa's very confident with that being a lot more efficient, because you're not having to jump back and forth between taking orders and taking customers and trying to keep the store organized. Right. So it's like, man, we want to clear that store out of having to handle those sorts of things and put that at the warehouse to
right.
That,
so. Well, for people who don't know, Alyssa sends a pull list, to the Quail employees, one for Yukon and one for Norman, and it is enough to fill Kevin's entire truck full of product. You know what I mean? It's multiple pages that could take, if you had nobody in the store it might still take you an hour and a half. Now having the busiest store we have, on top of that, it can take all day.
Right. And not to mention all the orders that they're getting throughout the week to just accumulate those products in the first place.
Right.
That is a store that gets I would say probably most days gets a pallet.
Yeah.
Or at least multiple pallets worth of products.
Right.
Yeah, it is
so much.
Yeah, and it's
much
it's
stuff.
retail, and it's white walls and vinyl floors. So it's it'll be nice to be able to move all this stuff into a concrete floored place.
Literally. Yeah, a place designed for it. A place where you can just wheel the pallets in and drop it off. You know what I mean?
Got a garage door.
Yeah. It's going to be really nice, man.
I agree, man. Yeah, it's it'll be a big sigh of relief whenever we can get in there and actually start doing that. So,
yeah. Well, one of the cool things too is and I don't know, we haven't necessarily talked about this, but having a company meeting there and making those Quail fools have to be on the phone.
I think we should do at least one to try it out and just let everybody see the warehouse.
Totally down, because even if I open Yukon, I'll be there until I have to just walk across the parking lot to go open the store.
That's a huge benefit to it as well, is that we're not having to pull 3 stores where we have Friday morning meetings before the store opens at Quail Springs, and it's easy for anybody that works at Quail Springs because they can just pop up front and turn the lights on, unlock the door, turn the open sign on, get it all ready, and hang out for a meeting and whatnot. But like, they don't have to leave early. They can, when it's time to open, be there. Where Yukon would be the same way. We're not having to pull all 3 stores. We still have 1 store that would be able to just pop over, walk across a parking lot.
Literally.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's nuts, man.
Yeah, it's surreal. Yeah. Like it's I remember us sitting we were talking in the back one time. I believe it was I know you and I think Anthony and Preston were there, but we were just kind of talking about the realistic aspect of where things are potentially headed with certain stuff. And we were talking about, warehouses and headquarters and things of that nature. And it's really cool to see that conversation did not happen long ago. Yeah, there was a manager meeting, that conversation happened within the last 6 months.
Right.
And it's like,
it was not more than a year ago.
No, definitely not. And it's like, now we're sitting here looking at, here it is. Here's the actual location of it. This is what it's going to look like,
Just waiting for them to finish the drywall and ductwork and
You and I walked back and looked at one, not the same one, but one identical to it. That's just a couple doors down.
Yeah. Ryan and I were in there just about a week ago, checking it out, and they were in there working away.
Yeah. That's super cool.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. It's super exciting. Obviously, it's cool to see this thing grow. Yeah. And it's cool to see the strides that we've made. But this is a big, we pulled out the nice whiskey for a reason. This is a really defining moment, no pun intended. But this is a really defining moment of Define is really starting to kind of stand on its own in its own respect. Mm-hmm. We are, we need this space just for more stuff.
Define is doing well enough to be able to add regular expenses to it. It's not just surviving off a triad and helping triad. It is, yeah.
And also, rewind a year ago, I think we still would have kind of giggled at the idea of outgrowing the back of Quail in the back of stores as being enough for the overstock.
Yeah.
And now it's it's legitimately not. Yeah. It's legitimately not enough space.
There was one point in time. So I do think that it was a couple years ago that we rented the first storage unit, and we used to talk about, eventually we'll have too much defined nutrition in products to be able to store in the back of a store. The back of Quail is got a lot of room.
Right. It's a big place.
And it was super helpful to not have to have additional rent or additional spaces or whatever for that stuff. But we always talked about, hey, our half step would probably be renting some storage units. And the employees would talk about all the time, oh man, I think we're getting close to a storage unit. It's I'm not adding $200 in rent if you get just because you guys don't feel like fitting things in.
Yeah, right. We got to make this work.
It's got to be, there is no way that things will fit.
Right.
And there was an order of Defined Ways coming in, which is 8 pallets. And usually when we get that means we are almost out of Defined Ways and we've got a lot of space.
Right. These
were on the way and there was not much space at all. It was pretty full back there,
right? Already,
and that was the moment where it was, this ain't gonna, it isn't gonna fit.
Yeah,
so
there's just no chance. It's not a rearranged deal. This is just not enough room.
Yeah. So yeah, we held off on as long as that. Held off on that as long as possible. I think there's, you look at it space wise, and we could have made storage units work for quite a bit longer.
Sure.
But there's a handful of other reasons that make a warehouse, I think the smart move. And I hope it plays out, man. It's, I'm confident in it. It's something, it's an expense that, man, we're doing well enough that it's an expense that even if it's questionable whether it's worth it or not, it's something that we can cover. So,
well, and one of the interesting things too, in like kind of a totally outside of just like the normal business aspect of it, I think having something like that is, I don't know what the right word is here. I want to say like, it's a good showing, I think, at least to our employees of like how like, hey, we mean it when stuff is like going to be getting bigger. Yep. Tell me how, obviously you can't put a value on this stuff, but like it costs X amount of money, but like how much X amount of excitement has it caused within the employees of the company? Like company morale around the idea of the warehouse has like skyrocketed.
Yeah. So that was actually one thing that was tough to communicate with my mom on it is and I like that she takes a very logical approach and a very statistical approach to what makes the most sense for defined nutrition, or what makes most sense for storage.
Sure.
And so what she was looking into, apparently there are warehouses that will be these massive warehouses, and you pay like per pallet or per amount of stuff you have. Sure. It's used typically per pallet that you're storing, and you just get your stuff delivered there and they store it for you. And it's typically a month-to-month kind of deal. You can find there are ones that are completely temperature controlled. Apparently those, they've got minimums that are way higher than we would need.
Yeah.
There's my mom found some that are, not completely temperature controlled, but kind of, and it's like, well, then we're just running into the same situation as the storage. Like if that's going to be the go-to, we might as well stick with the storage units.
What's the real difference?
Right, exactly. So, but the factor that was tough to communicate with my mom is, and I don't even know how much I really tried because I just knew it would be difficult, was the amount of excitement that it builds for the team, because we are a team of people that are not working for our immediate paycheck.
No
one, including myself.
Sure.
We are working way harder than what we get paid to do. And we're all working for the opportunity of just an amazing position and at an amazing company in the future.
Right.
And showing that company that's, going to provide that.
Yeah, we planted a flag.
Is actually growing. It's not, we're not just talking about, opening up a new store.
One day.
Opening up a warehouse /HQ. We're actually genuinely taking steps in that direction. Is that it's hard to put a price on that, or how much, how much it's worth it. But if it's on the line and we can build, X amount of excitement just by doing a warehouse versus storage units or leased space or whatever, or leased per pallet or whatever you want to do, is having our own space is a huge thing. I remember like that was a super exciting meeting to be able to go to meeting and say, hey guys, we're moving forward.
Sure.
We're trying to find a warehouse.
Absolutely. Well, I think it has been brought up every day. Every day that I've talked to Triad employees, it has been brought up in some fashion, like it's talked about.
Yeah.
And I think, again, like how much of a price do you put on just like excitement? Obviously, you don't want to do something that would be detrimental to the company. But again, like you said, if it kind of floats that line, was like you can't underestimate the morale aspect of what these kind of things can cause. Again, like you're saying, and like we've been talking about, is like we planted a flag of like, hey guys, we mean it. Like, we're moving in this direction. This is HQ1. And as we go, it might be a little bit of time, but one day it'll be HQ2. And then one day it's HQ3. And then one day we're building one, like whatever that looks like. But I think it's such an important thing. And I always am like stoked because I think as somebody who manages stores and works with like employees, and obviously you do too, but like works with the employees on a day-to-day basis, we always have a lot of ammo to get our people excited. And I think that's such an underrated thing when it comes to managing people, because whether it's working at the hospital or working at other places, it's like, if I don't have any, especially think back to working at S2, there was so much excitement, and we were running on excitement. You know what I mean? Like no matter how hard it was, no matter how bad the days were, no matter how busy or whatever tired you were running on excitement. And that's such a huge thing, man, because like we never complained about that. Like we were never upset in those moments that we were running purely on excitement. We were excited. And being able to have tools to keep our employees excited now is such an underrated thing. Like if we were continuously just kind of slowballing everything or whatever that looks like, but we're constantly kind of pushing the envelope in certain aspects that make sense for us.
The whole culture of the team, the whole motivation of the entire team in the first place is the excitement. And if you don't, if we go too long without tangible evidence of showing actual growth, and genuinely building that or like adding to that excitement, the culture suffers.
Right. And I mean, every step that we've been able to do it, opening store 2, opening down in Norman, and then Norman being open for 2 years and then opening store 3, those kind of things have been like consistently excited. And this is something that gets brought up a decent amount, even just in conversations, but it's like, those things provide opportunities for people. A lot of people have brought up like the opportunity of potentially one day moving and working at the warehouse. Like, I don't know if that wants to be my future career, but that's fine. Like we have people who are excited at opportunities.
Yeah.
And that's such an important thing to be showing the employees that exists, is that opportunities that you didn't even know about 6 months ago are going to exist tomorrow.
Yeah. So I was making fun of some of the employees, I think, at Quail, and it's hypocritical because I'm just as excited as they are.
Right.
But we've had a lot of people that have quit warehouse jobs to come work at Triad because they don't want to work a warehouse job anymore. And it's just funny that these people are now excited to go back to working in a warehouse. And Anthony was quick to defend. He's like, well, it's a warehouse where we actually enjoy the people that we enjoy the work. We enjoy the people we're around. We're actually motivated to help the company.
Yeah, it's ironic.
On the surface, yeah, it looks funny. But yeah, I'm genuinely just as excited as they are to be hanging out in the warehouse, goof around with people. And it's like, it's nice. It'll be the only space that isn't like an active retail store. So you have to keep it professional and it's like we're gonna be loud in there. So.
Well, it's funny, we were making this joke the other day that somehow First Form made working in a warehouse cool.
Yeah. It's bled over to us somehow, and I'm down for it.
And I think it will be a cool place. Like it'll be a super exciting place. But again, back to what we were saying of just being like, these things provide opportunities.
Yep.
And when they provide opportunities, people see potential in their future.
Yep.
And when people see potential in their future, they can find, I don't want to say gears, because I think everybody that works for us is pushing themselves as far as they can push themselves, but they find new levels of motivation.
Yep.
They get more excited about their day-to-day stuff because they understand, like, well, if I want this, or we see that this is growing, we see this is growing. They not just, oh, am I going to miss it? It's like they actually are genuinely excited about the path that they see the company going, and they can see, okay, I have opportunities here, I have opportunities there, whatever that looks like. And that's really cool, especially, like I said, from a manager's perspective, because we have lots of ammo to excite. I always use the Will's going to laugh at this, but I ask Will how many times I've said this is a frustrated Kevin leads to opportunities for the rest of us.
I'm glad that you've passed this message around because they're definitely, here's the thing is I'm sure other people will start to experience this as well, but I am constantly dealing with new challenges, new problems, new stressors,
right?
And things and problems that are bigger stressors, and it takes a second for me to adjust to these, and it's stressful, and then I get adjusted to those, and then new problems come on, and bigger problems come on board, and things that are more stressful come along, and it's like, oh crap, like, okay, I've got to deal with these two. So it's like, it's this constant like uphill battle of getting, I get used to, if you tell me the stressors that we were dealing with, 2 years ago, it's like, I've figured those out. I've got those down. That's not a problem.
Right.
But we're dealing with stuff like today, we're dealing with things that I am not used to dealing with.
Sure.
In some ways I'm a little bit more comfortable, but it's like, there definitely are times where it's like, I'm stressed. I'm dealing with more than I've ever had to deal with before. I'm dealing with things I've never had to deal with before. So, and this all ties in together where company morale is like not just their work ethic and how hard everybody is working, but their mood with customers is affected by everything. Their excitement, their, for their future, how affects how motivated they are, affects their mood, how they are with customers. So if I come into the store and I'm yelling at everybody and telling them everything they're doing wrong, where they might be able to still accomplish everything and do their job, they're going to be, a certain percent less excited when they're talking to customers, or in a certain percent less in a good mood when they're talking to customers. So, it's definitely a big thing for me to make sure that I'm trying to be in a positive mood as possible, when around everybody. But there are times where it's just, I'm stressed up to my eyeballs, and it's tough to hide that. So it's very helpful that you're passing along the message that a stressed Kevin leads to opportunities, because I'm stressing about new problems and growth. I'm stressing about growing pains.
Right.
And you letting people know, hey, if he's stressed, that means he's going to be passing things along, and like opportunities are going to be coming down the pipes. So you're ready. It's a good thing.
Right.
So,
it's a weird way to look at it, but but
it relieves a little pressure from me of feeling like I can't ever be that way. I can't ever feel that way.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, it was one thing where I think Will was talking about, like, you coming and having to work on the weekends, and you gone, and he's like, oh man, I'm like, what are you upset about? This is fantastic news for us. Kevin having to be here on the weekend, he's gonna go, how the hell do I get off of weekends again?
Yeah.
I was like, this cures our problem, our issue, so much faster.
Yeah. I put a plan in place on how I was gonna get out of weekends before I committed to working the weekend.
1,000%. And I was like, as soon as he committed to coming here and working every Saturday and every Sunday, I was like, boy, because we had been like, we'd had our own side conversations at times, and always positive, but just being like, man, we're really getting to a point where we need help. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And, and, there's no better proof than being in the pudding, you know what I mean? And like, you coming and being there, you could clearly see like, oh yeah, they definitely need help.
Yeah.
But it's also a situation where I knew as soon as you signed up for weekends, and I was talking to Will about this, I was like, as soon as he signed up for weekends, man, he already knows how to get out of weekends, out of having to be here, because you work 5 days a week and now you're working 7 days a week. Right. And it's not like your stuff just, you take off Tuesday and Wednesday now. Like, it just doesn't work like that for you. And I get how that goes. But I was like, oh no, man, we're going to get overlap help on the weekends here quicker than we would have ever gotten it if he didn't sign up for this. Like,
so this is all a very calculated plan.
Yeah.
And because it's not me that's hiring people. It is you guys, you, Anthony, Preston, that are finding these guys, interviewing them, bringing them on, hiring them, getting them going. So the temporary plan is everybody else having to cover the weekends, where it's like, now it's on you guys. It's on you guys. Yeah. It's up to you guys how quickly you got to get out a weekend. Like, having to work those weekends, where, shout out to you. We kind of transitioned some hours around a little bit to help cover the hours the weekend hours at UConn. We don't want that to be the long-term solution. It doesn't make sense for a couple of reasons, but with it being UConn or weekend heavy on shifts, that means that most shifts are like, probably like close to half the hours at UConn now are on the weekends. And you've stepped up and taken a lot of those. So you've committed to doing some Saturdays and Sundays, like a lot of weekends. So, but it is also up to you and a lot of Anthony too. So you're gonna be on his ass.
Anthony, are you listening to this?
When's the next interview?
Well, and it's still a cool thing too, because and I think we step up when we put ourselves in these positions, because here's the deal. If, interview processes or things don't work out, I'd rather it be me. I'd rather be me being the person that has to kind of suffer because of it, as opposed to it can cloud my judgment real easy. I think Anthony and I had kind of talked about just like hiring people and what that process is going to look like. And we were talking about building the schedule. And part of it was like, man, I think that I'm just going to have to take the weekends. Like, it's okay. I can do this. It's not that big of a deal. But at least if I'm the one working the weekends, it doesn't cloud my judgment as much as if I knew Will was having to work all weekend or Kaylin was having to work all weekend. Because when that happens, when the interview comes in and somebody's on the fence, I might lean the way I shouldn't lean because I want to help out my team. If it's me, I'm like, I'm fine. I can do this. Like, it's not that big of a deal.
Yep.
Andrew Aguero put this good one time where it's like, you know, your dishwasher just quit. You have an interview for a dishwasher this evening and he sucks. Do you hire him or do you do the dishes?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you know, I trust and know myself that it's like, I'll do the dishes. I'll do the dishes as long as I need to get the right person here.
Yep. It's going to be a tougher, long-term tougher situation if you hire the wrong person.
Right. And I would be more clouded in my judgment if it was affecting Will and Kaylin more than it was affecting me. And so it kind of just like, you know what, just makes sense. I'll just do it. Like, I'll just, if somebody's got to fall on the sword, I'll do it because it's either one of us or all of us end up having to do it. And it's like, that's not worth it. Like,
so that's a big misconception for, that a lot of people have, I think, is as you move up and take on more responsibilities and become more of a leader, is that you get weekends off. Thomas, being a prime example right now, is that being the manager of UConn is the one that is working most shifts on the weekend right now to make sure that he covers for his team. Because if you pick someone else, like you tell Will, hey man, I need you to work Saturday and Sunday for the next 4 weeks until we get someone trained up. That sucks. And it's going to be tough for him to look at you the same way as a leader, where as opposed to, but you have the opportunity to say, hey man, I got it.
Yeah.
Like I need help on one weekend day, but I got the rest of them. And to be able to still provide for him, dude, the amount of like that you'll get back from an employee like that, willing to jump in and help you out because you're willing to help him out is huge. And it's one of those, I think, when you move up through leadership, there'll be opportunities where, hey, we've got enough people that need weekend shifts and I don't need to work a weekend. Right. I can give myself, Monday through Friday and I'll be good.
Right.
You get those opportunities, but when there's someone that needs to step up on in a situation like that, as a manager, you have to be the one that takes that because otherwise you have a team of people that don't feel like they can rely on you.
Right. Sure.
That you're not, you don't have them in your best interests.
Yeah, for sure. No, I understand. And, this is something that we talk about when it comes to UConn a lot. And Will and I have a lot of conversations like this, but you have to, and Will does great. So, Will does not take much coaching at all. So I'll preface with that, but these are the examples and, not even just applying it to myself, because I think anybody in our leadership team would have done this, but Anthony works weekends all the time. And it's somebody who has the most staff to be able to work things around. For him to not work weekends would be probably the easiest. And he chooses to work weekends,
right.
A lot of times full weekends. And so kudos to him. But the thing is him in that situation, we'll apply it to him. He's setting the example for whoever takes over Quail after him, that is something that you don't just immediately schedule yourself off weekends.
Right.
He was a manager and the manager for a long time. And then maybe he's a regional manager afterwards. And it's like, what, are you going to go to your regional manager and be like, yeah, I get myself off weekends? He's going to be like, what the hell did you give yourself off weekends? When did I give myself off weekends?
Right,
what I mean?
Exactly.
And it's not to say that you can, or the situation doesn't provide itself where it works, but it's also a situation where you can't be selfish, because as soon as you're selfish and it becomes a grab as opposed to provide, then people start looking for, okay, how do I grab? What do I, I can't be flexible.
I've got to fend for myself.
I've got to fend for myself. And I've got to say no.
My manager doesn't have my back to help me out and give me the times off that I hope I need. A manager can't give you 100% off, like a perfect schedule.
Yeah.
Perfect schedule would be, I don't work at all and you pay me 40 hours a week. So
right. I had a situation when I worked at the hospital. And I always laugh at this situation because I think it's really funny. But I gave a kid off the weekend that he was supposed to work, and we were having to move some things around, and we ended up having to run just slightly short. And my director came in and was like, "Why the hell did you give him off the weekend?" The kid was taking his MCAT that weekend. So he was taking his MCAT that weekend. And what was I supposed to tell him?
Right.
No, you can't have off the weekend. He would have been like, "Hey man, it's been great working here, but I have to go take my test to be a freaking doc, to get into medical school."
Yeah. Sorry. But I quit.
Right. And the thing is
he's not working the weekend either way.
Right. Exactly. I might as well give him off and we keep him as an employee. What was funny is at the time the hospital was doing, this was in the middle of COVID. And so the cafeteria wasn't necessarily open for fresh food, but you could go in there. The cafeteria actually got really smart. This was a genius idea. What they started doing was they started essentially selling groceries. And so you could go in there and just buy loaves of bread and lunch meat and stuff that they were selling individually. They were now selling in bulk to still be making money. Like
prepackaged kinds of stuff.
Right. Yeah. And so it was genius. You could go in there and essentially buy groceries. And so we had these, I never told my director this, but we had these they were called meal tickets, right? And they were essentially just business cards, but they were $5 gift certificates or gift cards to the cafeteria. Sure. And you could use as many of them as you want. You could have, if you ordered $100 worth of food, you could use, 20 of these and you could cover it. They didn't get it. It was literally just tickets.
Right.
And so what I didn't tell him was that I also gave that kid $50 in meal tickets that week to go buy groceries because I knew he was going to be working less because he was going to have to take the weekend off. And so I was like, "Hey man, I know you're going to have to take the weekend off because you got to take your MCAT. Groceries are on me this week. Go get your stuff done. Go kill the MCAT. Go do the things that you need to do, man." And what my director didn't understand was alleviating that stress for him and him knowing that I had his back in multiple ways of I'm going to help you provide the money that you're going to lose by not working this weekend. And I'm also going to give you this weekend off, even though it's your weekend to work, and I'll figure it out and get it covered. I don't want you to stress. I care about your future more than I care about you working this weekend. Go do really well on the MCAT. And then he came back to me and was like, "Man, that was the most relaxed that I've been, because he'd had to take the MCAT a couple times." And he was like, "That was the most relaxed I had been for it." And he was super appreciative. Guess who my best employee going forward was? Anytime I needed anything, he was my guy.
That was the most worthwhile $50 that you ever spent.
1,000%. And a weekend off.
Yeah. So there's a number of examples. Exactly. Yeah. It's those opportunities. Yeah. It's hard to look at $50 and it's hard to, again, the excitement and the trust and that you build with something like that is hard to measure. So when you're looking at it, it's $50. It's that's $50.
Right.
But it's hard to see what that provides on the back end. But it is so those opportunities pop up and they are so worth it. And there's so many times that with our staff, with other people in the fitness community, where it's just tiny little things that we find an opportunity and it's it'll cost us a little bit. It'll take a little time, little effort, little money, whatever it is, but they are always so worth it.
Right.
When you look at it in the moment, it's man, it's a lot. Does it really make sense to be doing this? But then you end up trying it and seeing if it works out, and it pays off for the next 5 years.
Right. Well, and I think, man, when it happens, whether it's companies or whether it's employees or just people who are involved, whether it's as simple as, it doesn't have to be big and it's not necessarily small either. But what we lack so much of when it comes to businesses these days, I feel is just a genuine give a shit. I just care. A genuine, when a company or a person or whatever, goes out of their way to for no gain of their own, but to just be hey, I care. I actually care. Whether that's us, all signing a card for somebody who's going through something or,
I know we've used a lot of we'll have we do customer appreciation shirts from time to time, but I'll purchase a shirt sometime that isn't a customer appreciation shirt, and it's something that I just know this person would really like it, hooking them up and saying it's on me, you know?
Right.
It goes.
I just care.
Exactly.
Right. And it's like you see so few like displays of that though, where people just like, hey man, like I just want you to know, like I give a shit.
Right.
And like I don't just care about you as an employee. I care about you as a person. I care about your success. I care about your mental health. I care about your well-being. I care about all of those things. And I want to do anything I can to make sure this goes as smooth as possible. And we're a team, and it's going to be sacrifice from both of us.
Right.
But if I can help you the most to, you know, Will was struggling because he personal trains on the side and he had no day off and was working like all weekend and was working essentially literally every single day that he wasn't at Triad. He had training, and he was training people in the morning and training people in the evening. And I, you know, we had multiple conversations with him like, man, like I don't like, let's make sure we're doing something sustainable. And he finally got a day off and he was like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize how much I needed that. And I'm like, right. And it's like, immediately let's change the schedule.
Yeah.
Like, let's get you into a place where like you can maintain. And the same thing was a huge factor in my decision on taking the weekends. Was Sunday or Saturday is Will's day off. It's his day off from training and from Triad. Yeah. And it's like, if every once in a while something pops up on your day off, your singular day off of having like any responsibility, sure, that's okay. But when you know that you're signing up for the first, like, who knows how long into the future of it's like, this is just what it's going to be. Yeah. It can be it can go the other direction, like really hard. It can be super draining and super detrimental to morale because you're just like, great, I just gave up my only day off. And it's like, you know what, man, I don't have to do that.
That's the thing, man, is I love the culture that we have of man, it's everybody grinds, man. Like it's not an easy job for anybody in any position with the company. And again, working everybody's working way above their pay grade. And we all have this morale of we're all in it together, but we all have each other's back of like, hey, we all know what it's like to be doing this. So like, man, if you need, you know, if we need to get you, you know, a different day off, or if you need to be, you know, if your family's taking a trip, man, we got you, dude. We want you to be able to do those things, is really cool, man. Of like, hey, man, when we're here, we're grinding.
Right.
But we have each other's backs.
That's right.
Is huge. I think that's a super delicate balance.
Absolutely. And again, man, like that kid at the hospital was my best employee after that. If I needed somebody to step up on a weekend and take a shift, boom. If I needed somebody to move their shift, like he was the first one to volunteer. Needed anything. And it was like, I didn't do it for that, but it was like, that was the result that came from it. By me showing that I genuinely cared about him, like I got the best employee I could have asked for out of it.
That's the thing. Yeah. You do it because if you do it expecting something, it never works out.
Sure.
But if you do it just because you care, it all ends up working out. So yeah, you just have to genuinely care about people and then not worry about what comes from it.
For real.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but I'm worn out.
Dude, I'm so tired. I'm so tired. This has been we had a couple some situations happen, and so from 2:00 Wednesday afternoon until Sunday at 7:00, I got 48 hours in on shift.
Yeah, we did.
Spicy.
Yeah, you did. We worked pretty much all weekend together. The only time you weren't on shift was when you were working an event.
Yeah, for real. I was off from 11:30 a.m. on Saturday until 1 on Saturday.
Yeah. And even went in early on Sunday to do inventory. That we were talking about it yesterday because we were both there past close, and we were like, yeah, Sunday's a short day, you know, we're only open for 8 hours.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, we got a couple hours of inventory, you know, before that, but we'll be good. And it was like, man, you stack that up, and that's a 12-hour
hours of inventory.
That's a 12-hour shift. That's a 12-hour day.
Yeah, we were loopy boys by the end of it. We were super slap, dude. That should have been a podcast.
Dude, at the moment, I feel like that we thought it was probably just all gibberish. We were probably speaking Swahili. We thought we were giving great customer interactions.
Wait, whoa. How you doing? What's wrong with these guys?
There's no one up front.
Yeah. The store's been closed for 3 days. We had no idea. Dude, honestly, could have been. But last night I knew exactly what I needed to do. I came home, I cooked dinner, I ate, and as I started to I put the pan on the stove and I was like, I'm taking my defined sleep now.
Yeah.
And it was like 8 o'clock, 8:15 or so. And I'm like, it's probably a little earlier than that. It's probably 8. And it was like 8 o'clock. And I'm like, defined sleep in. Okay, cool. And then I cooked my food. I ate my food and I was out.
Dude, I've been doing that full dose of defined sleep recently.
Yeah.
On a pretty regular basis. And that with the combination of just working from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed, just day after day, week after week. Yeah. Dude, I've had 2 or 3 nights where I wake up in another fucking dimension. Dude, I think it was Saturday. I woke up and I'm like, my alarm was going off and I'm like, oh, is my alarm going off at the right time? I'm almost like, wait, what day is it? Like, wait, where am I?
Yeah. Looks at a list and like, who are you?
Yeah, dude, that was legitimately the feeling I had when I woke. I think I dreamt so much that night that it was like, I don't know what is what when I woke up.
Right.
Dude. But yeah, that is crazy that formula has no melatonin in it because it is potent.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
No, for sure. But yeah, it was
that's hard to find advertisement.
Have you ever been exhausted?
Have you ever wanted to wake up in another dimension?
Yeah. Be confused as to who your wife is? Try to find sleep.
Sorry, what were you going to say?
Yeah. But I think I also got through, after all of that, I got through all of Sunday on 1 energy drink, 200 milligrams of caffeine. I didn't break. I didn't do anything more than that. I was like, I'm going to have 1, and that is all I'm going to have today. And I did it. I survived the whole day on just the 1.
Great,
yeah, it was, I knew that I was so excited for the sleep that I was going to get last night that I was like, I want nothing that's going to mess this up. I want no detriment to my sleep tonight. And I think I was out cold at like 9:30 and my alarm was set for 7:20 for jiu-jitsu this morning. And I woke up at like 7:15, like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, like ready to go.
Good for you.
Didn't hit the snooze, nothing.
And
I needed it.
That's I feel like that's genuinely a good sign of a good sleep product. You wake up, like, I don't personally ever have problems like falling asleep or staying asleep, but it's like I always like my issue is always waking up like feeling well rested. So I think that's always the best sign.
For sure.
Dude, I think waking up early on Sunday morning and working the hours, because I had to come, like I stayed late after you left at the store, just working on stuff in the back.
Yep.
And ended up coming home, and I worked till right about 10:30, and I tried to go to bed by 11. So I was like, I was in bed by like 11:15. So I'm like pretty solid. I'm like, okay, I should be able to wake up at 7 tomorrow morning. I think my body was like, nope, you need an extra hour.
Yeah.
So I got 1 extra hour of sleep this morning, and I think I needed it. Dude, I was worn out. I was like, I got, again, full 8 hours.
Were you wormed out?
Let me tell you, I'm wormed out.
No legs, just crawling. Wormed out.
Yeah. Again, I have said this before, but that sounds like an explanation. It is not.
This is my go-to thing when I am loopy tired at the end of the shift and I'm working with Kevin. I go, boy, I'm wormed out. It'd be like, worm? Like, I'm wormed out. No legs, just wiggling. What?
Keep your secrets.
If you want a wormed out t-shirt, come to our website, Job Guys at Jobguys.com. That's not a website. That's an email.
Jobs. Yeah.
Kevin, I'm wormed out, dog.
Honestly, the same.
But it was good, man. It was nice to knock all of that out. Got to make up all the stuff I needed to make up. Got to get back to where I needed to be, and so it ended up working out. Nobody had to, some people had to step up and kind of help me out, and so I was able to kind of repay the favor on that, which is always nice when you can do that immediately and like kind of, not let that drag on into other weeks or whatever. Where it's like, hey man, you help me, let me help you, and we'll make this work. So. Yeah. No,
I was expecting you to, just because we kind of have a system that's for especially managers and anyone that's kind of on shift and is salary, to kind of keep a balance amongst everything of like, obviously there's times if you're taking some time off, you're taking a vacation or trip or you're sick or just for whatever reason you can't work, as we got to have other people step up and work those hours, right?
Somebody has to be there.
Right, exactly. So we keep track of, hey, if you're working positive hours, like if you're working for somebody else, we keep track of your positive hours. But if you are taking off, you get negative hours. And it's like, hey, just, when it's someone else's, needs some time off, like just, be the one to step up and take those hours. And that system has actually worked pretty well for, and I don't know that it'll work forever, but it works pretty well for the size that we're at and, kind of the roles that we have. But, we've got I genuinely expected last week for you to have to take some negative hours, which would be understandable. Sure. That's what they're for. Right. And you told me that I think yesterday that you were going to go positive. And I was like, what?
Yeah. Ended up going positive. Yeah. Well, that plus minus system's really cool, man, because it you essentially have unlimited sick and vacation time as long as you're willing to make it up.
Right.
As long as you're willing to
help out those other people.
Right. As long as you're willing to pay it or earn it up front or like pay it back afterwards.
That's true.
Like,
you can earn it up front or
where a lot of companies, it's like if you go take a vacation, it's a little different for us because you essentially you don't just get to miss out on work. Like you don't get that week
2 weeks total just off. Unfortunately.
But it is something where like, and we still make it work though, where it's like I could take a week off, recoup all of those hours and take another week off. Like,
right. You could end up
I could do that 5 times if I could make it work.
Exactly. Yeah. You have unlimited as long as you're willing to, step up and take those.
Right. You can't just keep going negative into perpetuity, but it's like, you can, I think we do like a 20 under, like you can't really like take volunteer. Like you can't, I don't
something
remember
like that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like maybe it'd be 40. So it could be like a whole week.
But it's like, if you're sick or something like that, that's obviously a different situation, but it's like, you can't be negative 40 hours and be like, hey, by the way, I'm going on vacation next week. You're going to be like, bro, no, you need to make up your hours.
Unfortunately, you're at your limit.
Right. Yeah. But if, and we've never had a problem where, we tied into everybody trying to get back to 0 or at least positive hours by the end of the year. And it's like, we do a good job with it. And it seemed to have like worked really well for people. And there's always something that can be done, whether it's extra sample events or just covering people who need help or whatever that looks like, you can make it work. And so, yeah, it's a cool system, man. It's a cool system if you can make it work. It's a cool system.
We did it. We had a different system prior, but last year was the first year that we tried it, and it worked out well enough that we're doing it again this year. So
yeah, right. The funny thing about being a small business is like, well, we tried this and that one didn't really work, so we had to do something else this year.
Yeah. But
this one going for round 2. So
that was
a good sign.
We were kind of keeping track of how much time that you were taking off throughout the year, but then it was like, all right, but who's making that up? Because it's not something where we can just be down a man.
Right.
It's or woman. It's you have to have someone else stepping in and taking those hours. And it's like, well, like we didn't keep track. The first time we did it, we didn't keep track at all.
Right.
Who's making up those hours or covering those? So it's like, man, that person should probably be getting credit for that.
Exactly. So. Like they should be. Well, the nice thing too is like as a salaried employee too, when things happen where you have to step up and potentially take an extra shift or work an extra thing or do inventory or whatever, where it's like required additional hours that kind of pop up as a salaried employee, they're not just for free. You know what I mean? Like you don't just get nothing for them. When I come in and I work additional hours, I don't get paid monetarily. Like when we did inventory, Will got paid on his paycheck for that. I won't. But I got positive 4 hours onto my time. And it's like, I will take that positive 4 hours.
That's 4 hours you don't have to work in the future.
Yeah, exactly. And I've got trips planned. Like, this works really well for me.
I think that works nicely too with being salary, is that, you know, you don't have to balance out what you're making of like, okay, well, this week I made more, but then that week, you know, 2 months from now I'll make less when I'm taking off. Like, it's your pay is always consistent, so you can take time off and not have to worry about bills,
right?
Or, you know, but you know, when you're working extra those times and not getting paid for it is what's covering that,
right?
So,
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
No, it's been kind of cool how that's worked out, though.
No,
so
I agree. It's something that it's unique, but it's at least worked well for us.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm curious if anybody else has a system that works like that.
Plus and minus systems exist. Like, other places have done them. Like, you can find info on it. But I think, you know, it does, because the problem that we had was like with our system that we ran before that was like, if you were gone, somebody else has to be there. We don't, the company doesn't run less hours. The company runs the same amount of hours.
The situation of being in retail is
right.
You have to have someone there.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, we can't just run short. Like, we don't have that capacity to run short.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, it was, and I had no idea who had worked. The first time we did it, we had no idea who had worked the extra hours. So.
Right. Well, it ended up just working, like I said, where you get a positive benefit for like taking a shift. You get a positive benefit for being somewhere where you're kind of volunteering to help, or maybe it's required, but you know, it's a time where it's like, hey, you're here. We're not going to give you nothing for it, which is cool. You know, even obviously for me, but into the future, potentially, where that's always a nice thing.
No, I think that's something that I didn't even really think about either too, is because like, typically when you're in a salary position, it's, you know, sometimes if there's, you know, minimal work to do that week, as like you're working, you know, a pretty base level week as far as your hours go. But hey, when there's extra work to be done, it's where, you know, you're kind of required to get the work done. It's very much, you're put in a position of like, you get to go home when the work is done kind of situation. So yeah, it is nice that there's genuinely a benefit with it. You're legitimately on shift, not just like getting to go home when you're done.
Right.
It's, you have to be here until the store closes or the shift is done.
Right.
And, yeah, there's a genuine benefit to it of as opposed to just being like, man, I just got to get this done and then I get to go home.
Right.
Yeah.
No, we've always found really unique and done really well, like finding things that work for us. You know what I mean? Like we've had plenty of challenges and plenty of things, and we've updated the handbook a number of times, but we've always seemed to find something that makes sense. And the nice thing is as the manager team is growing and stuff too, and I know a lot of these conversations are typically between you and I, and Alyssa's involved a lot too, but of just like making these kind of decisions when it comes to like, what does this policy look like, or what does this look like going forward with this, or whatever. Like we've always come to like well thought out like things that have made sense for us.
Yeah. It's you had to be creative because we kind of have some people in positions that we need you to be able to step up when the work needs to get done, but it's also if you want to take time off, we still need somebody.
Yeah.
We still need somebody to cover you. So,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Man, I'm trying to think of other examples of like, we've implemented so much that's like that.
It's so many things.
Years, so yeah.
We literally have done so much over the last couple of years, like from a whole handbook to just like a ton of different different things. Like that was what so much of our transition period from store 1 to store 2 was, and we've talked about this before, and this is things that we've heard from multiple people, but store 2 is where you really like set your processes in. Mm-hmm. And we had a lot of situations where things were working, some things weren't working, some things were working well, some things were barely hanging on, and it's like, okay, cool, well, let's look at all of this and now let's multiply ourselves. Does this process still make sense if we grow one more store? And if it stops making sense if we grow one more store, well, then we need to start implementing things to change that now. We need to be in the routine of doing it before we get to a new store.
That's a good point, man. I think we did change quite a bit more after we opened Norman than we did after we opened Yukon.
Right.
We really haven't had to change much within the last year.
Because we've been preparing for Yukon since Norman opened.
That's true.
There's a number of conversations we had that led to that.
Dude, I bet we're going to have to. I bet there'll be quite a bit with the warehouse, though.
Yeah.
I bet there'll be yeah, I mean, we're jumping into things that like we're not totally sure how they're going to work.
Sure.
So, yeah, I would probably be quite a bit of trial and error.
Well, and some of them were big and some of them were small. Like I think just thinking of like one example was sending out meeting notes after we had, sending out essentially the minutes to the meeting because we had,
I hate that. I hate doing that.
Yeah.
It's worth it. And I do it every week.
Yeah.
I hate you a little bit every time I have to do that.
I'm glad you do. We'll have somebody pass that task on to somebody else.
I've thought about that already.
Yeah, I don't know, but you wouldn't trust them to have all the info.
I mean, yeah, the thing is like I already have my own meeting notes. I just have to go through and manipulate them. But the thing is I'm just gonna rant about the most minuscule thing right now, but like I have my regular like meeting notes like template essentially, and I go through on Thursdays and I update it all and get it ready to talk at meeting on Friday mornings. And I talk at meeting, and then after meeting, I pull that because that's the easiest way to create a minutes is just pull the meeting notes that you did, manipulate it to be more legible for, to throw in a text and send in the group. And then I have to go back into the meeting note for the third time now to edit it and get it cleared off essentially to get it ready for next week.
Yeah.
So I'm editing this fucking meeting note.
Yeah, you're welcome. But the process where this started to happen was, so for those who don't know, like we do our meeting at like 8:00, which is great, but our meeting always lasts longer than an hour. So if we have somebody down in Norman, that's a 45-minute drive from Quail. There's no reason for them to come to Quail and actually be at the meeting. So they are on the phone. So from 8:00 until the meeting is over, they are on the phone. And so we're running into situations where people weren't remembering like certain dates or certain things that needed to be done. And the conversation that kind of came up about it was like, well, we've got people on the phone. 2, we always have new people in, and we cover a lot. Our meetings can last 2 hours. Like it's not an unrealistic thing for us to have a 2-hour meeting.
Right.
And it's like, we cover a lot. How much is actually being absorbed by our newest employee sitting in their first meeting? How much of this is actually being absorbed?
Even the most experienced, or the people that have been around for a while, how
you check in and out of meetings, dates, like it happens.
How many dates are you going to be able to memorize in that meeting?
Right. And so the thing that was happening was like a date would get talked about in the meeting, and even maybe like to credit to you guys and like the people like putting on meetings and stuff, it's like, it might have been mentioned 4 or 5 times, but we don't have a meeting where people have a note and paper and they're taking notes. Yeah. Right? Like that's not something that anybody does.
Maybe that's what we do now. Helps. Probably not. But
but it's like, we're having this and I remember our conversation about it, and our conversation had its levels of spiciness and not spiciness to it, which is fine. We've gone through many of those, and we always feel very confident when they happen.
I hate to complain about people asking about things I've already talked about.
Yeah,
that's probably Alyssa's probably one of her biggest pet peeves. And I understand. I get it. I get frustrated.
1,000%, dude. Yeah. I get frustrated with that. That is a frustrating thing. But it's like it was a situation where it was like, this will help you. But one of the main things that we talked about and that we both came to an agreement on was add one more person on the phone. Okay, well now, when you're driving or what happens, whether the speaker in the room is working well that day, whether somebody who was talking was far away from the speaker, whether they were being loud enough or legible enough or other people weren't talking, there wasn't some kind of interference. I say on like a good day, you're going to get 90% of the meeting, right? Like you get a lot of it, and it's gotten better. And like, I think people have gotten more accustomed to it. Part of that was I started scheduling people who hadn't been on the phone to have to be on the phone. And it's like, as soon as you're on the phone one time, it totally changes how you approach like meeting, because like, it's definitely a different thing.
You don't just nod whenever.
Right. Or like, you have to realize you have to talk to it. And like, it's just, you have to be intentional with the people who aren't there.
No, it's since we've started doing that, and since I've started sending out the minutes after every meeting. We've had less questions that were covered in the meeting. I've had very, very minimal, if any at all, honestly.
Right.
I think people have done, number one, a very good job of actually genuinely reading it. I get, maybe like comments or questions specifically about some of the notes that they read or whatever. Right. Also, I think people might be scared that I might murder them if they ask. At this point in time, if you ask again, I might murder you.
But it's also like it's a traceable, I can look back to it.
Right.
And that's such an important thing. It's why big companies and corporations or whatever work mostly through email, because there's a paper trail of information. I don't have to ask you what you said this time was. I can just look to the email where you wrote it to me. And it's essentially the same thing where it's like, if I forget a date or whatever, or when I'm looking like, hey, when does this shirt come out? Right. I don't text, hey, when does this shirt come out? I go to the group and I scroll up to the meeting notes first and I see, is it on the meeting notes from last meeting? No, it's not. Okay, then it wasn't on there. Hey, by the way, when was this shirt or is this shirt going out, or is this product going out, or whatever? It's like, I have a reference point first that I can go to that has like a good culmination of most of the information that I need. And if it's not on there, then it's like, okay, cool. I feel confident to then text and ask the group about this because it's not on there. And I think most people do that. And I think that's why we have such few questions. And it's
check
like,
that first. Yeah.
Right. And it's a tangible thing to look back to. Right. But that's just an example. And again, like we compromise super well. And like we both talked about things that could be better or whatever. And like we came to a good solution together on it. And so again, kudos to you on like stepping up and being because I was creating work for you, but it's like, it's for the greater good because now in the end, we deal with less questions and less stuff like that. Yeah. But it's so many of those things. If we would have put that off until store 3, now we'd be scrambling to fix it.
We'd be running into even more of those questions now. So,
and that's just one example, and just one example that applied to you. But it's like there's plenty of those things where it's like, this is working now. Is it going to work tomorrow? And I'm not even talking about 10 stores. I'm talking about 3 stores. Because if it's barely working, or if it's kind of working with 2, adding in the factor of a 3rd store in it, probably not going to work.
That's the thing is anything that we have implemented is it has to suit the time correctly, the situation that we're in correctly, where sending out meeting notes where it is fairly time consuming.
Right.
It wouldn't have made sense when meeting was just at Quail. Sure. It was 4 or 5 of us because we're able to sit and knock it out in an hour. There's not as much to cover, and it would have been maybe not necessarily a waste of time, but wouldn't have been a good use of time.
Yeah.
And it's something that is now worth it, but probably wasn't worth it in the past. And there are systems that we've had in the past that are probably not worth it now.
Right.
So.
Well, and it'll constantly be evolving. But I just pulled up my phone because I think this is another good example. Was we had an issue where the main group chat information that was valuable information was getting swallowed up there in no time.
Oh, yeah.
When you have 10, 12, and now going into like the 15 range of employees who will have jokes and memes and things, like you don't want to create a serious group chat and a not serious group chat or whatever. Like you want people to have the morale of being able to send a joke in the main group and it being a fine thing.
Right.
But information, and I know this is something that was frustrating Alyssa, and completely understandably, was Alyssa would say something about like products or whatever, or Ryan would, or whoever.
She would text a group.
Right. And it's like, and especially now that we're busy in all 3 stores, and this was 2 stores at the time, but we were busy in both stores, where it's like, I might sit down my phone and come back, and that group alone might have 26 text messages in it.
That's pretty regular.
Totally regular.
Someone says something that is just, it sparks jokes, and everybody just runs with it.
Like there's a side of me that wants to look, and there's no text messages in it right now, but I just wanted to be like, there's a chance that there's 15, 20, 30 text messages in there right now.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you miss one thing or overlook one text, it's gone for that group probably gets 100 to 200 texts a day, no problem. Right. And so when that happens, valuable information gets lost quickly. And so what I was going to reference was where we went from having essentially a full group chat and then an individual store group chat in Norman, we now have the whole company group chat. We have and I'll just go through mine, not even all the ones that exist, because I know more than this exists, but it's like we have the whole company one. I've got Norman. I've got Yukon. I've got another Yukon one that is literally just myself, Will, and Kaylin, and doesn't involve like Ryan, you, and Alyssa and stuff.
Sure. And I think Norman has that same thing.
Right. Norman has that. Quail has that. Like everyone has that.
Right.
We also have the assistants to the regional manager group, which is you and the managers. We've got Kevin's Gray Sideburns, which is just the managers, right? We've got a products group, which talks about releasing products. And that's where you ask like, hey, can this go out? And that's where that information gets passed on to the managers. Then we have managers and mom, which is all the managers and Alyssa for information that we need in that situation. Yeah, and I think I'm missing some. But those are the ones that are pinned to the top of my text messages.
We got a podcast group.
We do have a podcast group, which is pinned to my top of my text messages as well. But it's like it's literally all of those and then Laurel. And those are all my pinned text messages. But like how many text messages exist in that but it just makes sense when I have valuable information that I need to go to just certain people, I can pass that along. Or it became a really good one for Alyssa and Ryan, because Ryan would wait for us. If we got something, he wanted all the stores to get it. He wanted to maybe post it on social media. And so he didn't necessarily want something to go out until he could get there or take a picture, or we knew all the stores had it. And so it became a situation where Ryan and Alyssa could text in the products group and say, hey, whatever company X, hey, new first form, whatever, can go out this Thursday. And it's like, cool. Then we as the managers know that it can go out this Thursday. We then pass it on to our own individual groups so that they get it. But the thing is that when I need to reference back to it and I go, crap, when did that need to go out again? I don't have to dig through 500 text messages to go back 3 days in the main group. I go back 2 text messages in the products group and it's right there waiting for me. Right. I have access to the information that I need.
Right. And you brought up something earlier too, within the main group that's got everybody that works at the company. There's a lot of jokes that go on in there. And I think that is it's important to let that happen. And we've talked about it in the past is, man, if we can't joke around with each other and give each other a little bit of shit, it's man, I don't know how many people would want to be here. So it's legitimately, it would be like we all work hard, but like, man, a big part about keeping morale up and keeping your even yourself able to work as hard as we do is being able to joke around a little bit.
Dude, so, for real. We're here for the work and the goofs and the gaffs. Ain't got no goofs, ain't got no gaffs. I'm out.
In that order.
That's right.
Wait, no. Work, gabs, and then goofs.
Maybe I'm too warmed out for this. Man, I'm feeling wormed out.
This is your what's that guy's name? You sound like
I sound like myself. This is me. That's how I actually sound.
Who?
What? It's my I can't think of his name either. Right
Theo Vaughn.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does sound like Theo Vaughn. It's a very Theoism. Man, I'm wormed out. Ain't got no legs, just wiggling.
That's a Thomas original, though.
That's right. A Thomas original Theo Vaughn joke.
Yeah. Thomas original Theoism.
Yeah. Wow. Well, isn't that nice?
Ain't that nice?
Ain't that nice? Dude, I think. Ryan, how we doing on time?
I was going to say.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
Let's wrap it up.
All right.
I think this is the first time we've ever called it because we're just.
Dude, I feel like we pushed it pretty well, though.
Yeah. No, this was a fun one, man.
Ryan's been playing disc golf on his phone, so he doesn't even know what's going on.
Just 8-ball pool.
Oh, okay.
Really banking on this pool table.
Yeah. Got to get practicing.
Do we by chance have a winner on the who won the comments or who got the most comments, or are we just going with the tie?
No, I just left it at tie. I did not go any farther.
Okay.
You want to wrestle for it?
Fist fight.
Nice. So down. I've got some pent up aggression towards you that I've been finding a reason to get out. So, all right, tune in next time for we'll get a celebrity boxing match going on.
Down.
That's what we should do for a company event. Just beat the shit out of each other.
It might be a good thing.
Yeah.
It's could end up good.
Who do you want to fight first? Who do you want to beat the shit out of the most on staff?
That fucking guy, Tyler.
Well, all right,
I'm just kidding, Tyler. We love you. He's our newest guy. He's funny.
Well, that was my answer also, so I wasn't joking. All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. But yeah, seriously, appreciate everybody watching.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, I think we're calling it. I don't know if that or
no,
good conversation.
I think we're still close to our normal time, right, Ryan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the first time that I don't think I could do a whole lot more. So
no, I feel like we still did well.
We're wormed.
We're all right, folks. We're
okay,
wormed
bye.
out.